The 48th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, kicked off Wednesday, which will last through Friday in Bridgetown, Barbados. The Panama's construction workers union mobilized in rejection of the reforms to the security fund, which affects the benefits of public employees. And China reaffirmed its readiness to hold talks with the United States amid rising tensions in bilateral relations on trade and diplomatic issues. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The 48th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, kicked off Wednesday, which will last through Friday in Bridgetown, Barbados. CARICOM leaders and some European guests are attending the session to debate on Caribbean resilience, inclusive growth, and the bloc's unit sustainable development. Moreover, they are addressing shared regional priorities as food and nutritional security, climate change, and current economic relations. In addition, an encounter is expected between the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, and the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the focus of this 48th regular meeting of the conference on strength in unity, forging Caribbean resilience, inclusive growth, and sustainable development highlights the need for renewed and expanded partnerships and collaboration as we grapple with existing and emerging uncertainties. The simultaneous global crises of climate change, biodiversity loss and pollution, crime and violence, ongoing military and trade wars, and other global shocks pose real and present threats to CARICOM countries. It is times like these that CARICOM's continuous call for international cooperation, multilateralism, and respect for international law takes on special significance.
We live in a world where fake news is now the order of the day. And day by day, leaders, not just of governments, but of churches, of private sector, of households, have to worry about the fact that someone will post something that probably is not true about them. We live in a world where the opportunity for facts and shared values in common spaces is becoming rarer and rarer simply because everyone is into their own echo chamber rather than in national entities being able to share and to relate so that we have a common perspective to keep our democracy strong.
The Panama's construction workers union mobilized in rejection of the reforms to the security fund, which affects the benefits of public employees. The union announced a series of protests for 24 hours to demand the release of the workers arrested for demanding the repeal of the law by the legislature. The workers said that they will take their demonstrations to the National Assembly, where the bill will be debated to express the union's rejection.
Dictator Mulino, the construction workers are not criminals. We call all Panamanians to the Great March. Tomorrow, Thursday 20th at 4 p.m., starting at Porus Park, freedom for the political prisoners.
The Mexican government assured that U.S. drone flights over its territory are part of a cooperation strategy agreed between the two governments. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has reaffirmed her position on security cooperation with the United States. The president reiterated that national sovereignty is not at risk and that she is not afraid of the statements made by U.S. President Donald Trump. Sheinbaum stressed that any action would be carried out in accordance with the principles of respect and coordination that govern relations between Mexico and the United States.
These flights are part of the coordinations. Here with us is the Admiral Secretary for a cooperation that has been going on for a long time between the governments of the United States and Mexico, and many times the request, or I'd rather say, in all cases the request have come from the Mexican government. It's a request for cooperation and for information to deal with security issues. These flights are part of the
Brazilian government announced the South Americans' entry into the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries Plus. The decision follows the initial announcement made by Brazilian Minister of Mines and Energy Alexandre Silveira during the 36th OPEC Plus ministerial meeting, which took place on November 30, 2023, as well as following a series of high-level contacts with Saudi Arabia throughout 2024. The move marks Brazil's rise as a major oil power, but puts it under fire, especially in the context of the country's preparation to host the annual United Nations Climate Summit COP30 to be held in November, whose focus is usually on reducing the use of fossil fuels. The Brazilian former president Jair Bolsonaro is facing charges for attempting a coup to stay in office after his 2022 election defeat. Bolsonaro had been indicted in November 2024 through a report filed by the federal police, which accused him of having full knowledge of the alleged coup plan to prevent President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva from taking office after his electoral victory. The charges filed on Tuesday include attempting a coup d'état, violent removal of the rule of law, and forming a criminal organization.
Given everything that has already happened and come to light about him, this should have happened a long time ago.
He placed the military at key points to carry out the coup for his own benefit, but thank God who still exists it didn't work.
The Cuban government announced that the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, allocated more than $120 million to destabilize the island. According to Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez, the government of the United States has financially backed multiple initiatives that seek to destroy the Cuban Revolution. The island's top diplomat also rejected the pressures to undermine the nation's economy promoted by Washington. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Palestine, the West Bank records destruction of infrastructure and massive displacement a month after Israeli forces' offensive against cities, villages and refugee camps. Official data estimates that over 70 civilians have been killed in the latest escalation of Israeli violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. In addition, these sources gave an account of over 40,000 displaced people since the onset of Israeli aggressions. Occupation forces have made an incursion into the city and the Jenin refugee camp, pursuing a pattern of massive bulldozer destruction in and around the camp. These genocidal actions left nearly 3,000 families homeless in the past few weeks. In all, the violent Israeli escalation comprises bombings, burning down homes, widespread devastation of infrastructure. The Lebanese Ministry of Public Health confirmed at least 1 death and 2 injured from Israeli attacks on civilians 1 day after its partial withdrawal from the south. The ministry detailed that Israeli drones hit to death a citizen in Aita al-Shahab village, while the emergency center reported 2 wounded as a result of Zionist military shooting at a recreational area on the Wassani river bank. On a statement, the Lebanese government lately reaffirmed the need for Israel to complete its full withdrawal from the southern border of the nation. China sends humanitarian aid to Gaza and expressed its wish for continued dialogue and international cooperation to solve the conflict with Israel. According to Chinese authorities, the aid includes at least 60,000 emergency packages, 12,000 of which are food, which will be delivered to the World Food Programme, the Palestinian Red Crescent, and other organizations within the region of Gaza. The spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Guo Yanqun, pointed out that Beijing's priority is to support Gaza in the face of the humanitarian crisis, but also to ensure that the parties involved reach an agreement. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi advocated at the United Nations Security Council the Palestinians' right to rule their own country and considered it a basic principle to be upheld in any post-conflict scenario.
The situation in the Middle East remains tense and fragile. Gaza and the West Bank are the homeland of the Palestinian people, not a bargaining chip in political trade-offs. Palestinians governing Palestine is an important principle that must be followed in the post-conflict governance of Gaza. It is vital to uphold the two-state solution, press for a comprehensive, just and lasting settlement of the Palestinian question and bring lasting peace and security to the Middle East.
The Emir of Qatar arrived in Iran and was welcomed at Tehran's Mehrabad airport as part of his official visit to strengthen historical ties. The Qatari Emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, held a meeting with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and other senior Iranian officials to strengthen bilateral relations. The topics discussed included politics, the economy, regional issues with a focus on Palestine, as well as the situation in Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. Qatar had expressed its willingness to mediate between Tehran and Washington following statements by U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who said that Trump would talk to Iran if it suspended its nuclear program. We have a second soul break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final shower break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. U.S. President Donald Trump expressed his concern over the lack of presidential elections in Ukraine and questioned the approval ratings of Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky among the population. During a statement to the media, Trump stressed the need to hold presidential elections in Ukraine since the level of acceptance of the current Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is at 4%. The GOP head of state assured that this is not only a personal request, but also other countries that have contributed to Ukraine asked so. Trump noted that it has nothing to do with Russia's demands. The U.S. president also criticized the Ukrainian government for not having reached an agreement to end the conflict in the past 3 years.
And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago.
The Russian government expressed Wednesday its interest in creating conditions for negotiating stable relations with the United States. According to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, his government expects to establish conditions for talks to address issues of Russian-U.S. security and strategic stability. Lavrov said that during the dialogue held in Saudi Arabia, the Trump administration showed interest in removing the obstacles to the restoration of relations and moving towards normalization of the relationship between both nations. The Russian top diplomat also praised the U.S. president's statements about NATO expansions being the root causes of the conflict in Ukraine.
President Trump, when it comes to statements, has mentioned NATO expansion. He is the first, and so far, in my opinion, the only Western leader who has publicly and loudly said that one of the root causes of the Ukrainian situation was the previous administration's pushy line of pulling Ukraine into NATO. None of the Western leaders has ever said this, and he has made this point several times. This is already a signal that he understands our position.
China reaffirmed its readiness to hold talks with the United States amid rising tensions in bilateral relations on trade and diplomatic issues. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wei Kun reaffirmed that China stresses the importance of keeping a dialogue with Washington based on mutual respect and cooperation to address shared concerns. Likewise, the Chinese government reiterated its commitment to defend its sovereignty, security, and development interests, urging the United States to work together with Beijing on improving bilateral relations. Notwithstanding, China has responded to U.S. criticisms and actions such as tariffs and shift on Taiwan by warning that any attempt to contain the country will be met with a steadfast confrontation. French Parliament was scheduled to vote on Wednesday on a sixth motion of no confidence presented by Socialist Party against Prime Minister François Bayrou. The motion's approval requires the support of at least 289 of the 577 deputies of the Assembly. So far, Bayrou has gone through 5 motions this year, most of them linked to the state budget. The motion involves a scandal for sexual abuse and physical mistreatment at the Catholic College of Betharam where he was education minister. However, analysts consider unlikely that the motion can reach the needed majority to be approved. Germany witnessed the last debate between the country's 4 chancellor candidates in the run-up to the federal election of February 23, 2025. During the face-off, the candidates discussed the nation's economic crisis and migration policy, as well as its relations with Ukraine and Russia, amid public rejection of German right-wing extremist parties. According to surveys conducted after the debates, Social Democrat and Conservative candidate Friedrich Merz leads the voting intention, followed by the sitting chancellor and candidate Olaf Scholz. More than 59 million voters will go to the polls this Sunday to elect the next representatives of the national parliament, who in turn will select the country's chancellor. In the United States, at least 17 people died due to the winter storm that hit the central and eastern regions of the country. In this regard, authorities indicated that the storms caused flooding, cold winds, and low temperatures, as well as heavier snowfalls. Furthermore, they informed the state of Kentucky was the most affected, with snow accumulations ranging from 5 to 17 centimeters. Rain and snowfall are forecasted to continue until next Friday, February 21st, with freezing temperatures down to minus 51 degrees. In this context, authorities have urged the population to stay sheltered at home. And with this information, we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media as well. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.